What's up guys, Tim Little. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. Today's video, we are talking about bank fishing, shore fishing, and my top 3 baits this time of the year. If you are fishing from the shore, let's go. Bank fishing is especially fun this time of the year. When those fish are coming shallow, you can access them from shore, present your baits at a different angle than you would if you were fishing from a kayak or a boat. So this time of the year, if you guys haven't already, get out, fish your favorite fisheries, even if you have a boat, from shore, because you can present those baits at a different angle. Like I said, if you guys are on the bank, I know what you're feeling. I grew up shore fishing, I grew up pond hopping. So today's video is for you guys, talking about my 3 best baits this time of the year if you're fishing from the bank. And I'm gonna have 3 different scenarios for you. So first scenario is the scenario I have right here behind me. It is summertime, it is hot out. But as you can see, the grass is not on the surface. So the first scenario is gonna be right now, summertime, grass about 6 inches below the surface, kind of sparse grass. Scenario number 2 is gonna be if your fishery has like mats or grass, tules, that sort of stuff, but grass on the surface where you can't fish treble hook baits. And then my third scenario is gonna be if you were fishing a highland reservoir or a lowland reservoir out on like a main lake point, and you're gonna fish a little bit deeper. So those are gonna be the 3 scenarios that I got for you today, because I feel like that will cover a lot of the different baits you could throw, and it gives you a lot of kind of wiggle room depending on the scenario that you have. So starting off with today's scenario here, like I said, we got a little bit of grass over here, some vines and stuff on the surface, some cattails, some reeds, and then out here you have the grass just below the surface. So 9 times out of 10, when I show up and I fish a fishery like this from the shore, I'm gonna start out with a topwater. Now, the reason that the grass is so important is because I'm not gonna throw a treble hook bait on top of grass. But this is the perfect scenario. Those fish love to hang out and ambush out of grass. Grass is very key this time of the year. Grass is always key, but if you can be the first to fish that grass, you know, the grass, through the photosynthesis process, it creates oxygen, it clears up the water, it kind of filters the water. Bass love grass. Got all sorts of extracurricular activities going on behind me, so hopefully you guys can hear this. I apologize for it, but you never know what's gonna be going on. The house is around you, right? Especially when you're shore fishing. So I always start out with a topwater. Again, this scenario, no surface grass. Those fish are gonna be just below the surface, and I can cover a lot of water. Now, with that said, if you're fishing a shore, you know, say you're fishing a smaller pond and you have a little shoreline to cover, you might not want to cover that water as quickly, and you can go with a walking bait. But this time of the year, I love throwing a Whopper Popper. I can cover a lot of water and try and find where those fish are based on the area that I'm fishing. You can fire that thing out and just burn it back. Again, you're covering water, you're fishing the tops of the grass, so you can get away with those treble hooks, but again, you're gonna find those aggressive fish. So I always start out with some kind of fast moving topwater. The next bait that I'm gonna throw is gonna be some kind of soft plastic jerkbait. This is a Fluke. You know, this time of the year, summertime, even if I'm out on a boat, I am throwing the Fluke. Again, it's all about that grass. Those fish are gonna be up in that grass. It gives them that area to ambush. Lots of bait fish flicking around, lots of things, lots of life going on in that grass. But a Fluke always is on my boat or in my backpack when I'm fishing the shoreline this time of the year. Now the Fluke, you can fish it 2 different ways. Well, you can fish it a lot of different ways, but the 2 main ways I like to fish it, one is gonna be very fast. I'm gonna get that thing going a real erratic. It's gonna skip up over the surface. It's gonna look like a fleeing bait fish. So you work your rod tip really quickly. That thing is just skipping and hopping all over the place. Again, you're fishing fairly shallow, fishing through and over the top of that grass. So get that thing really working. Rip, 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 pause. Rip, 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 pause. Rip, 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 rip. That thing is just all over the place. And then obviously you can fish it the normal way where you let it fall a little bit and then you just kind of twitch, 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 pause. Let that thing act like a dying bait fish down in that grass. Again, those fish are gonna be in that stuff looking up, but that fluke is an awesome, awesome bait. Now last bait I'm gonna have tied on. Again, when you're walking on shore, you don't wanna have a lot of gear with you. So I try to keep it down to 3 rods, maybe 4. You know, some of the backpack I use have rod holders on them so I can actually strap them to the side of the backpack and carry 4 rods. But typically I carry 3, and that's because I want a topwater bait, I want something I can fish mid-column, and then something I can finesse fish down on the bottom. That leads me to my last bait for this scenario. It's gonna be some kind of shaky head or Texas rigged creature bait or worm. Now, if I am fishing really thick grass, that is where I will stay away from the creature baits because it has more appendages, more things to catch up and slow it through the grass. But what I have today is just sparse grass, and this is actually the Flying Squirrel by Big Bite. I have that paired up on a shaky head. Just a little more action than a straight tail Texas rig or a worm. Again, you're gonna fire this out. Just let it fall. Let it fall down through that grass. You're gonna fish it fairly slowly. Just kind of lift up, pop it. Even got the kids out here distracting me. Lift up, pop it. You're gonna fish this very slow through the grass. You can get aggressive with it if you want, but again, you're trying to break down the different water, the water column, surface, mid column, and down on the bottom to figure out where these fish are and what they want to eat. So my 3 top baits this time of the year for shore fishing, it's gonna be more like, I guess, categories. Top water, mid column, and bottom. If you have sparse grass, go with a treble hook bait, go with a rover or a spook or a Whopper Popper, something like that. Something with treble hooks. Mid column, go with that fluke. That fluke is hands down one of my favorites because you can fish it so many different ways. And if you really need to slow down and fish through the grass, go with either a Texas rig or a shaky head, and that will get the job done. Now let's talk about if you're fishing around matted grass. That is where you're gonna go. Thanks, guys. Turn my kids into some rod holders and helpers, appreciate it. That is where you're gonna go with a frog. You cannot beat a frog if you're fishing this type of stuff. If you're fishing mats, if you're fishing cheese, if you're a pond fisherman, this time of the year, a lot of those fisheries get a lot of grass. So that is where you have to go with a frog. That's really the only topwater you can fish through that stuff. And again, those big bass love that real thick, dark cover. I'm not gonna fish the frog for you. You guys know how to fish a frog. But the benefit of the frog is it's weedless. Braid, you're going power on power. So you're going high speed reel, real stout rod, 65-pound braid, 50-pound braid, straight to the frog so you can get those fish out of that cover. Again, if I'm fishing a grassy situation, I'm still gonna go with that fluke because I can fish it through that grass. I will switch up my bottom contact bait. Instead of going with a creature bait, I'm gonna go with some kind of straight tail worm. Again, either rigged on a shaky head or a Texas rig, but I want something with a slender profile, something that's gonna come up and through that grass. There's little patches and holes in this grass, so you're gonna hop that thing up and let it fall, and it's gonna fall down through. If you're fishing thicker grass and you're going with a creature bait, those tentacles, those appendages are gonna get hung up and it's not gonna fall down through it. So that is when I go with some kind of straight tail worm. Now, last scenario for you, let's paint a little picture. Say you're fishing a highland reservoir and you walk out to some shore access, maybe it's a main lake point. So now you're fishing a point that goes way out into the main lake. You got some steep kind of rolling off point kind of edges, and you have some deep water access. Now, I'm gonna fish, again, top water. Go with your bigger top waters, your big, your 120, 125 sized top waters, like your spooks, your rovers, your bigger Whopper Ploppers, your 130s. I've caught so many fish suspended out off of main lake points on top water. Those fish are just sitting out there. They move in and out when they come up to the shoreline to feed, and they back out and they suspend looking up, and throw that top water out there. Those fish will come up. One bait I wanted to talk about quickly. If you guys love throwing buzzbaits this time of the year, I love throwing buzzbaits. Check out this little guy right here. This is actually the Braybeck Baby Buzz. It is more, I'm not gonna say it's a finesse buzzbait because it still has that real stout wire. You're not gonna bend it out, but it's got little tiny props on it. So if you guys love throwing top water and you want to throw a different version or a different sounding bait instead of your traditional big buzz baits or your big Whopper Ploppers, check that guy out right there. That's that little Baby Buzz. Really, really cool sound. And obviously you fish it in the same areas you would a normal buzz bait. But so this scenario, I'm either gonna be throwing a buzz bait like I just showed you, or a Whopper Plopper, or a big walking side to side bait. Now where I switch it up a lot is gonna be my mid column bait. That is gonna be some kind of bait with drawing power, typically a glide bait. Now I'm not gonna tell you which size to throw, because you could throw a 4-inch bait, you could throw a 6-inch bait, you could throw a 10-inch bait. It totally depends on you, but I have had a lot of success with this guy right here. That's the S-Waver, and I don't leave home without it. The Arashi Glides, another good one. When I'm talking about glide baits, there are baits that are $200, $300, $400, $500 on the market. We're talking about baits that are easily accessible, where you can go into your local shop or online and purchase them. So the S-Waver, fairly inexpensive in this category, which is awesome. When you are stuck on the shore and you get hung up out there on the water and you lose your bait, this doesn't break the bank, and it will put giants in the boat. But this scenario, you're out on that main lake point, you need something with drawing power. You're gonna be able to fish that entire point. You throw this thing out there and just bring it back every 5 or 6 handle turns, twitch, give that thing a directional change, and you'll be blown away with what shows itself or eats this bait right here. Now, if you don't have confidence in the glide bait, obviously you can go with a normal swim bait. You might want to go with something bigger. This is actually a little, that's that Big Bite Bait Pro Swimmer, but a 4.8 sized swim bait. You can go bigger with a Bastrix or a 6-inch swim bait, depending on your gear and what you want to do. But I always go with something in the mid column down there, 8, 10, 12 foot range, the glide bait or the swimmer. Now the last adjustment I'm gonna make, bottom fishing, this is where I go away from the creature bait or the worm, and I go with some kind of flippin' or football jig. This is actually a flippin' jig. It's got the Arky style head on it, got a little rage craw on the back. Typically when you're fishing these main lake points on these reservoirs, there's gonna be some kind of chunk rock or larger rock, and the jig really, really shines in those situations. That's a 3/4 ounce guy right there. Again, I wanna be able to fire out there a long ways and work that thing uphill to me and draw those bites. But again, 3 different scenarios for you guys: shore fishing, bank fishing. If you guys are out on the shoreline hoofing it today, those are my 3 top categories, bait categories for the situation that you're in. If you're fishing a pond or a fishery where you have sparse grass just below the surface, start off with that topwater bait, that walking bait or that Whopper Plopper, something with some treble hook baits, because when they blow up on it, you have a better shot of hooking them. Go with that Fluke. That is always a winner, a soft plastic jerk bait. Fish it the 2 different ways that I showed you. Rip, 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 rip. Get that thing skipping and dancing, and you'll be amazed at the blowups you get with those fish that think that thing is trying to get away. And obviously slow down and fish either a creature bait or a Texas rig bait, shaky head bait, depending on how much grass you're fishing. And if you're fishing a fishery that has a lot of vegetation, a lot of surface vegetation, don't forget that frog. Do not leave home without a frog. And then if you guys are out on the reservoirs fishing deeper, clearer water, remember to bring that top water, bring that swim bait or glide bait, and the jig. If you guys have any questions, please leave those down below in the comments section. I will try to get those as soon as possible. And also remember to leave us a like if you learned something from this video. And also down below in the comments section, I want to hear what your favorite or most confidence baits are when you guys are fishing from the shore. As always, guys, we appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Remember to subscribe. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Have a good one.